Hey everyone, this is Grandmaster Ben Finegold. I think I'm more tired than yesterday, if that's possible, but actually, I just spent a couple hours at my son's place and I walked back, and it's like 35 degrees and windy, so maybe that's why I'm tired. Um, Another difficult game today against Cemil Ali Marandi. Actually, I almost lost on time writing his name down, but I had a few seconds left after I wrote his name, so I got to blitz out the game. Okay, so let's see. I drew today a tough game. I was worse throughout. Um, I played my opponent 2 weeks ago, and I drew in a French defense, and I figured he'd probably play e4 again. He plays e4 about 75, 80% of the time. I didn't really prepare for anything else because I can't prepare for everything. Now, I play e6, e5, c6, and c5, and I played e6 against him last time. And then I played e6 again in the same tournament against John Burke. I'm sure you've watched both of those videos. So I didn't want to play e6 anymore. I didn't like what he did against c6 and c5. I've looked at all of his games. Okay, so play e5. He always plays knight f3, and he always plays bishop b5. And I've had this position many times, not lately, and I played knight f6 here. Half of his games he castled, and half he played d3. I faced castles more in my chess career, so I looked at d3 more than castles. Okay, so he castled. And the Berlin endgame, which you're all familiar with. No, I'm just kidding. You're not familiar with anything. Starts like this. And actually, not only has he had this position, he's also deviated. And this is 3,000 Grandmaster games in the last 15 years. Okay, I don't play the Berlin. In this position, he's also played d takes e5, and he's also played bishop a4, which are not really common moves, but he plays a lot of stuff. Okay, so whenever they castle, I play bishop c5, and if you've watched any of my videos, such as my game with Ferdinand Hellers or my game with Boris Kryman, which I think was the same video, then you've seen this position in my games before. Okay, so here, there's three moves he can play, c3, d3, and knight e5. c3 I've faced the most. I faced knight e5 second, and maybe I faced d3 once, maybe. Okay, he played knight e5. Now in this position, I've taken the knight, and I've played knight takes e4, which are both equally played. I had a funny game I lost to Ray Robson many years ago. I played knight takes e4, and he thought like half an hour, and he played knight takes f7, which is played like once out of 1,200 games. I ended up getting a winning position, and I ended up losing it in the end. Knight f7 is not a bad move. Interesting move. Complicated. Okay. So I played knight takes e5 that game. That was my prep this morning. About an hour before the game, actually. And he played d4. I've played a6 here, and I've played c6 here. The difference is, when you play a6, if they take the knight, which I don't think is a good move, it's played a lot, then this position is very reasonable for black, and I think black scores over 50%. And I had this position before anybody watching was born. None of you were born. If you're older than me, you still weren't born when I had this position. I think I'm 2-0 in this position, but all the games were played over 30 years ago. Okay, and when you play a6, the best moves are either bishop a4 or bishop e2, depending on who you ask. I think bishop e2 is better, but I'm not 100% sure. Okay, and I've played a6. Okay, I played c6, which I've also played before. And difference is, it's better when they move their bishop to go into these lines with knight takes e4 and d5, because you have a big center. So instead of a6, which does nothing. So usually they take the knight now, and now that same variation I showed you where I was playing a takes b5, that's not good anymore if I just play the same way. Yeah. So if I could cheat and put this pawn over here, that's the line I just showed you. Yeah, now I need to cheat because the b pawn's hanging and knight d5 is unstoppable. It's just terrible for black. Okay, so after taking the knight, you can't take the bishop. You play knight takes e4. Let's see, who's texting me? I can't wear glasses over my glasses. We're talking about seeing a movie in 3D, but the guy wears glasses, so yeah. That's Ryan Chester. He makes videos that you've seen on the St. Louis Chess Club website. with Catherine, and then you guys usually denounce those videos. Oh, those are terrible. Okay, so he played bishop to d3, which is his main move. d5, they usually take on passant, and I actually prepared this position for the game. There was a funny note: knight takes d6, which nobody plays, loses to rook e1 check, bishop e6, and rook takes e6 check, and then queen h5 check, picks up the bishop on h5, and black resigns. So nobody plays knight takes d6, everybody plays knight f6. This is a lot of games. So I guess my prep wasn't very good. I knew 2 games that I thought were important: Fedorowicz-Kaidanov U.S. Championship, I don't know, 20 years ago maybe, and Fedorowicz won with white. And then there was a game, Paco Vallejo, the Spanish Grandmaster, I guess it's Vallejo. Anyway, against, Alejandro was here, against Anand, and Anand equalized and was playing for the win the whole game, but he couldn't win. It was a rapid game. In those games, the move that my opponent played wasn't played. That's bishop g5. Actually, he thought a while here. I actually was having the clock here, which is, I've never had the clock. Okay, bishop g5. And I didn't know bishop g5, and that's the most common move in the database. So, okay, so I'm on my own. I think bishop takes d6 is probably right. Knight c3, bishop e6 is probably right. There was a game that I saw in the database about 2 hours ago between Olivier René, who was a French grandmaster who I haven't heard from. I mean, he played a lot in the 80s and 90s. I guess he doesn't play chess anymore. I don't know. And this is a game he played against Luc Winans. He played rook e1, queen c7, threatening the h-pawn. And Luc was going to castle queenside and not care about messing up his pawn structure here on the king side, for example, because when he castles queenside, he can push his h-pawn, he can use the open g-file for his rooks, and he has 2 bishops, and he has a threat. So that's good compensation for the messed up pawn structure. And he won that game. Luke won with black. Okay, my opponent played a better move. He played queen f3. And I was very surprised what the most common move in this position was. It's not a move I would ever consider playing or play, and I still wouldn't play it. And that move is queen c7. And the idea is, if they try to win a pawn, you play bishop takes check, getting your pawn back, and then bishop e5. Probably black's better here, because I'm going to castle queenside, 2 bishops. Okay, well, I like black here, but I mean, it never occurred to me to play queen c7. Never crossed my mind in the least bit. Okay, and I guess it's okay. All right, so I played bishop e7, which I regretted, although this is, I don't know what to tell you guys. I'm not sure how to improve on my play, and I'm worse. So either this opening isn't good, or you just have to be worse. Or maybe I'm not as much worse as I think I am. Something like that. It's probably like a little mixture of all of them. Okay, when he played rook fe1, I came to a realization that was not correct. So that's not a good realization. I was like, well, I'll castle and it's equal. And the reason I didn't castle was incorrect. I thought he would play knight e4, threatening to mess up my pawns. And then if I take, he's threatening mate. So I would stop mate. And then I figured this was really, really bad for black. I was looking at it with the Esser, and we're just like, well, here, and it's equal. And I was like, yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, you just take with the queen, and then, yeah, it's just a draw. So, yeah, I don't know what I was thinking. But it turns out I may have been right for the wrong reason. If I castle, which everybody wanted me to do, because this knight e4 doesn't give white anything, should actually play rook a d1, and then when I move my queen, it's not clear where to move it, then knight e4. And if we get the same position with his rook on d1, he might have rook d6 or rook d7. Also, I don't know where to move my queen, because if I move it to b6 or a5, then my bishop on e7 is not protected. So that's sort of annoying. Yeah, probably white has a nice advantage here, like 0.6. Yeah. So actually, maybe it was good I didn't castle, because I don't think my opponent was going to play knight e4, but that's what I was afraid of. How do I improve before here? I don't know. So maybe this opening isn't the best. Okay, so I play queen a5, and this is amazing. So I analyzed 2 moves. Bishop takes f6, which he played, and I misanalyzed that. And bishop h4, which it looks like I analyzed correctly. I didn't see the move the computer gave at first, and I was like, what? I didn't see knight e4. Like, and that's why I didn't castle. I was worried about knight e4. I just forgot about it. So he's threatening f6, and the idea is if I take, that he takes. So if I had seen this, I wonder if I would have played queen a5. Anyway, after thinking forever, the engine says after knight f2 that it's about equal. So it actually doesn't play knight e4. It does at the beginning, then when it thinks about it. And the idea, this is a desperado. So I'm a pawn up, and my king is stupid. But okay, like if I can trade queens, I'm a pawn up. And I can, there's no pieces to attack me with, really. So this should be okay. Okay, so I was mainly afraid of bishop h4. And the reason I was not afraid of bishop f6 is I misanalyzed it. After bishop h4, I was going to play queen h5. I think he has to trade queens. I think he has to trade bishops. And I figured I could draw this. And I looked at it with Yasser Serouan, and he's like, yeah, this should be a draw. Okay, I'm worse, but like a little bit. All right, so he took on f6. And bishop d2 is a move, but I didn't look at it because it looks silly. All right, and I realized after he took what I missed. Because it looks like here he's got nothing. For example, if he pins my bishop, which he said he was thinking about doing, I just castle. And then, I mean, this is great. I got everything going on here, And if he plays rook takes e6, for example, I could just go here. Black's better. Yeah, and if I take his knight on c3 and mess his pawns up, I'm probably better there too. All right, so that's nothing. I wasn't worried about that. But I realized after he took on f6 what I missed. I missed after he takes, and after I take, he plays knight e4. And I don't want to let him play knight f6. I don't want to let him play knight d6 check. So bishop takes b2, knight d6 check I didn't believe in. I still don't believe it. So when I played queen a5, I thought, well, bishop e7, what's the problem? I have the two bishops. Castle either way. And I realized when he played bishop takes f6, in this position, I was like, oh. After bishop f6, knight e4, if I play bishop e7, he plays bishop c4. And that's serious, because if I take, he checks, I move my king, and he takes back. And then just losing. Queen f7 is not made, because it's defended. And then it's just horrible for black. And if I don't take and I castle, like at the game, then obviously, black is not doing well here. So I thought a long time after he took my knight, I thought about taking with a g-pawn. But anyway, I decided to play bishop e5, which is better than bishop e7. Bishop's nicer on e5. Bishop c4 is the same, because if I take it, he still has knight d6 check. And knight takes c4, and he wins even more. Totally winning. Okay, so I castled, and he took, and now his queen's attacked, and his b-pawn's attacked, so he played queen b3. Defending his b-pawn, attacking two of my pawns, and his knight's beautiful on e4. So it looks bad, but I've had bad positions before. I'm older than him. So I play queen d5. Obviously, if he trades queens, and I take with the e-pawn, black's better. Probably draw, but I'd rather have black. If he takes on b7, I would play rook a b8. I guess he would take on a7. And then I have the four best pieces in the world. My queen, bishop, and two rooks are all on the best squares. The c-pawn is hanging. If he plays rook a to d1, for example, I have queen takes a2. I don't know. And I'm threatening bishop to d4. I mean, okay, my game looks great here, actually. Okay, so I wasn't worried about that. Okay, now, of course, I want to play bishop d4 at some point, because I like that. That's a nice square for my bishop. So he played c3, which is what I expected. And I still want my bishop on that diagonal. What's funny is, I remembered after the game, I was thinking of the game, bishop c5 I played, then I played bishop takes d6, then bishop e7, and then I played bishop f6, then I played bishop e5. And of course, I like the bishop on this diagonal, that's why I played bishop c5, on move 4. And finally, I got it back there. I traded, giving him double pawns, and then I played bishop c7, because I want to get this bishop on the diagonal. And these moves are computer improved. So I knew if I could make 4 moves in a row that I wouldn't lose. I have to play bishop b6, rook a d8, h6, and king f7. Then he's got nothing. It's hard for him to move his knight and attack my e-pawn because f2 is pretty weak. For example, knight c5, bishop b6. He can't take any of my pawns because f2. Yeah, so he played g3 because he wants to get left. He wants to play king g2 and get off this diagonal, and he did. We thought he just played too slowly and he must have something, but the computer doesn't find anything. So I think I can actually draw this now. I think the one weakness isn't enough to win for him, and I don't think he can win it. Okay, so g3, king there. I moved rook d8, so I made 2 of my 4 moves. I've stopped knight d6. I defended my a-pawn, and I put pressure on f2 so he can't move his knight. Okay, and he played rook a d1 because he wants to play knight d6. I want to play king f7 and defend my weak pawn, but knight g5 check, so h6. And the problem is he can't play knight d6 because f2 is hanging. He can't play rook d6 because I take the rook and f2 is hanging. So he has to make sure f2 is not hanging. So he was pretty happy when he played f4 because he thought, here comes knight d6. And knight d6 not only attacks my pawn on b7, it discovered attacks this pawn. Okay. However, I saw further, luckily. I played king f7, and now he realized that he can't play knight d6. I mean, he can't win a pawn. And once I play king e7, I'm not worse at all. So the reason he can't take my pawn, in fact, he did play knight d6 after thinking a long time, but he already realized that it was a draw, is that if he takes my pawn now, I trade rooks on d1. I play rook b8, and his knight's trapped. The only way to get out is knight d6, and then I pin his knight. So he can't do that. And if he can't do that, then I don't have any problems. E6 isn't really weak if he can't attack it. Okay, so he played knight d6 anyway, knight c4, and this is just a draw. There's really no winning chances for either side. I was going to get into mild time trouble, but okay, there's no pieces on the board, so I don't have to watch out for anything. And here Yasser was asking why I didn't eliminate my weak pawn, which I thought about, although I sort of argued with him about whether it was weak, because it can't be attacked. The idea, of course, is if he plays f5, I can play bishop b6, and I'm attacking everything. During the game, I thought about e5, and I probably would have played it, probably, although I like what I did. But I was worried about rook e1, and my analysis was takes, double check, takes, check, and I thought I could be worse here. Probably it's a draw, but I'd rather have white. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm not worse, and I shouldn't want to have white. But that's what I thought. But then Yasser, after rook e1, said, just move your king out of the way of the rook. And I was like, oh, yeah. So white has nothing. Yeah. So e5 is a draw. I played bishop b6, and he could play knight c4. We could repeat, but we repeated another way. And okay, there's nothing going on here. He doesn't want me to play rook f5 and rook b5 and a5. Then I'm going to get the advantage because this pawn's weak. And I could preface rook b5 with a5, and then he might lose his b pawn. And there's just nothing white can do here. There's no plan. So he played knight e3. If we go back, he played knight e3 to stop rook f5, and I played bishop b6 so I could attack his knight and play rook f5. And then if I play rook f5, he plays knight e5, and I actually can't stop his rook from coming in. So I stopped knight e5 with bishop c7, and so forth. So we repeated, and here we agreed to a draw. There's a 30-move draw rule. This was move 32, I think. And this is just there's no advantage to white anymore. So that was a tough draw. I was worse the whole game, and I had much less time, so that wasn't fun. But it's fun not to lose, I guess. It was a really crazy round. If you go to the websites that are showing the game, ChessBomb, Chess24, USChessChamps.com, I mean, I've never seen a game like Rufeng Li versus Sam Savian. That was unbelievable. Another amazing game was Fedoseev, who won Aeroflot a week ago. He lost his first round. He won a crazy game with Black against Ipatov today. Wow. There were some crazy games. There were two crazy endgames. Sukandar, she was winning or much better in endgame, and she lost. She was up a piece, and the guy had some pawns that didn't seem dangerous. And then they seemed dangerous because, time makes fools of us all. And the debacle of the day was Akshat Chandra, who had an extra passed B pawn in an endgame. They both had a rook and a knight. They both had two kingside pawns that were not dangerous, and he had a passed B pawn. So he was like plus 0.8 or plus 1, and he lost. He lost all of his pawns, all three of them. Because, in time trouble, 30-second increment, people blunder a lot. And that game was about 80 moves, but yeah, that was just terrible. So these things happen. All right, tomorrow I have white against Robert Hess, and Robert's had white his first 2 rounds. He drew his first game, and he won his... He drew his first game, and he lost his second game. So Robert has half a point. Robert doesn't really play anymore. He went to Yale, and he just graduated, a year ago. And he hasn't really played in a tournament. He does some commentary, does maybe a little writing, plays some Blitz online, plays in the Pro Chess League, but he's not playing in tournaments. So probably in the last 4 years, he's played in like 2 or 3 of these tournaments. It's not really in good shape. Okay, so wish me luck for tomorrow. Donate, like and subscribe. I got a lunatic who's been trolling my channel saying all kinds of stuff I can't say on the air, and I'm trying to get him banned forever from everywhere. He's also doing it on the St. Louis Chess Club website, so they're looking out for him too. If you thought you were crazy, you're not, because this guy's he cornered the market. Anyway, he's obviously anonymous, because if he wasn't, then he would be in a lot of pain now. All right, so donate more money so I can find these people, and then we can take care of them. All right, see you guys next time. Wish me luck tomorrow. Bye, everyone.